So welcome to the Driven Female Entrepreneurs podcast, Emma.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, I'm really excited to speak with you today because you're a digital marketing specialist, and I know there's loads of questions the audience have around how do I get started on digital media? Why is my Facebook strategy not working? What platform should I be on? When do I get started with Facebook ads? So I'm going to ask you all these questions and extract all your knowledge. But first, I'd love to know, how did you get to become a digital media strategist in the first place?
Well, it's quite a long story. It's 7 years worth. I celebrated my business birthday in August, so it's a fair journey. But in the very beginning, I was working actually as a PR manager and an executive for a big company. And the reason why I wanted to branch out and go on my own was I really wanted to do a lot more with small businesses and startup businesses. And I wasn't really able to explore that within my job role. I had to work on very big PR campaigns, and that mostly came with very big companies with very big budgets. And so on that journey, I really felt there was a need for much more structured advice in my niche for small businesses. So I thought, no, do you know what? I'm going to do it. So I did. 2 feet, no armbands, straight in at the deep end, and I moved house, moved to the South Coast, changed my job, and started my business. So, and from the very beginning, I have been passionately working with small businesses looking to either refresh or start from scratch, and startups. And I niche down into the leisure marine industry. So I work with a lot of boat builders and holiday companies and water sports training businesses. And now, since COVID, I still work with a lot of leisure marine companies, but it's now a lot more. So very much still working with my lovely group of very small businesses and solo entrepreneurs.
What a great story. And yeah, you really did jump in the deep end, like
Yeah.
entire life all in one go.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the best way though, isn't it? Because then you can restart and create things just exactly how you want it. You don't have any overhang from old habits that you can cling back to. And I love that you decided to move from large corporate to small businesses. And I was just having a conversation this morning about, is it important for small businesses and solopreneurs to have a formal education in things like marketing and communications? And that's been my background. I did my first degree was in design management, so that was all about marketing, communication and leadership, all your regular sort of management learning, but within an art school context. So it was very creative and just really dynamic, and I loved it. And I still use a lot of that in that perspective in all of what I do. But then later on, once I started working in marketing communications, I did my CIM postgrad diploma as well, which was really tough. But that was really all about big business strategy. And at the time I was working for a consultancy that wasn't that small. We had like 500 people, but still it was way smaller than the strategies that they were teaching in this program. So I had to get that certificate to progress in marketing. So, and it was really, really interesting, but there wasn't that much I could apply to small business. So I think as a small business, you can definitely learn the skills without having a formal education. So what's your experience? What do you think is the big differences when it comes to communications, PR, connecting with your audience for a small business versus a large business?
I think the major factor really is that small businesses, again, I guess what they know or what they understand is that they have to have a PR person, they have to have a marketing person, they have to have a website person and an IT person. And yes, in a very big corporate business with hundreds of employees, yes, you can afford and then have the structure to have all those individual people that work all under the umbrella of digital communications. Whereas what I really want to help small businesses and micro businesses and self-employed one-man bands understand is that you can still do all of that. You can be one person and cover all of those topics. I think a conversation I've been having all week with a lot of like-minded women is the job title of social media manager is hugely misunderstood. we don't make websites, we don't do SEO, we can help. And I think, and generally they don't do PR. So social media managers look after social media and help with strategy and content planning and scheduling and all those things. But I think for very small businesses, there's so much out there where you can learn for free and do all of these roles for yourself and still compete at a level that the bigger corporates can with all of their members of staff.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with small businesses as well, they have different insights and different value they can bring as well. The way they can do business, the way they can add value for their clients is they can do it in a very different way to large corporates. So there are very different ways to compete. And I think sometimes we small businesses think they have to do what a big business does, whereas in fact they can compete much more effectively by doing what I call the TNTs, the tiny noticeable things. So the little things a small business can notice about its clients because they have that closer relationship, and they can add in these nice different experience, a different way of working, these like little extras that they can add in that a large company can't. But people really want that connection these days. So it's a real advantage, and bringing that into your marketing is, and the experience you create through your marketing and content, I think is can be definitely one of those TNTs. And it's personal as well. You're having that really personal conversation. So with small businesses who are trying to get their head around social media, where would they start with that? If they were really coming in afresh and they didn't really have much of an online presence yet, how would you recommend they decide where they should start? Because trying to start everywhere, which is a tendency, is a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, you've nailed it on the head there, really. Like, tip number one is, please don't think that you have to be everywhere all of the time. You absolutely don't. Let's say it's retail and you're selling products and things. You don't have to sell all of your products at every hour of the day, and relate that the same as social media. So if you know that the people coming through your shop door and they're buying your products are of a certain age and a certain demographic, that's your first piece of essential data. So you need to look at those people who are already buying from you, if you're already established, people who are already interested in your products and services, and then look at where they might be. So there is some very generic information that mostly women of the age of 35 and above are on Facebook. They're in groups, as we know. Men and women of ages between X and Y are on Twitter. If it's B2B that you're looking for, you absolutely should be on LinkedIn. That really is a very good place to be. And again, if you're looking for younger, 25 and younger and things, you've got Snapchat and TikTok, and then you've got Instagram in the middle. So you really need to look at who your product is aimed at, who is likely to buy it, and then pick the platform. Just pick one. Do one really, really well, where you are able to post regularly, add really great content that adds value and then drives some sales of your products. And then you can start to look beyond that. Don't think I have to have a Facebook page and an Instagram and a Twitter. You don't. Pick one, do it really, really well, show off your brand and yourself and your products, and then expand after that. That's the best thing I could say to someone, because it is hugely overwhelming to try and manage 4 or 5 different channels. And we said it before, you feel like you should be posting every day. It's just too much.
Yeah, exactly. And if it becomes overwhelming, then you just stop.
Exactly.
And if you start everywhere, it's really hard to know what's working as well. It's much better to start small, like sort of cut your teeth, understand what it takes, what people engage with, how to develop that, and just build your own confidence as well. Because if you kind of mess up and you're on 5 different platforms, that can feel really bad, and it never is anyway, but it can feel really bad and really knock your confidence, whereas if you just make a mistake on one small channel, then you just move on, and you've probably engaged your audience there, so they're very forgiving anyway. So it's I think that's great advice to start small, a bit like when you're starting your own business. And I know lots of people are like, oh, I want to do this and this and that. Like, just focus on one thing, like really build your skills, build your confidence, learn how it works, get known for one thing, then build the next one. I'm not saying don't do more than one thing, just don't do more than one thing at the same time.
Yeah,
Build
for
it,
sure.
understand what works, and then, as you say, expand from there. So I think that's great advice for life, even, really.
Yeah.
We tend to think that as women, we're always told that we can multitask and do everything, and I've always struggled with that, and it's like, but now it's known that no, multitasking doesn't work for anyone. You have to focus. You can have lots of different focuses, but not at the same time.
That's it. And even if you are in business already and you have got 5 or 6 channels and you are feeling overwhelmed, that's okay. Don't shut them down. Just put them on pause for a little bit and concentrate on one. If you really want to start to bring in some or engage with your audience, focus a lot of time into your Instagram page, really build that back up and then move along. It is okay to have them all, but it's not okay for you to be overwhelmed and stop doing everything. That's not great. So you just focus your areas.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe experiment a little bit as well, because if you start on one platform and it just doesn't, you don't enjoy it, try another one,
Exactly.
and maybe
Yeah.
another way of working or a different audience will be more fun, because it has to be fun, otherwise
Absolutely. Yeah, if you're not, let's say you're not interested in TikTok or Snapchat, if it just isn't for you, don't do it for your business, because as soon as you start to do it because you're not interested in it, that will just reflect outwards. So don't feel, oh, I have to have it, because that's where, yeah, I mean, if all of your audience is there, you could employ a social media manager and they can help you with that. But it would reflect if you're just not into Twitter, or you're not interested, or you're not on LinkedIn. It will really show in your content. So focus in the areas that you enjoy.
Yeah, exactly, because it has to be authentic to you at at the end of the day. I mean, there are obviously best practices and things that work, but not everything works at the same time for everybody.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, and that's what I've worked in marketing and comms for more than 25 years, and I'm still learning and experimenting, and things keep
Yeah.
changing, and what works today doesn't always work tomorrow. So it's a learning curve for everyone. So
Yeah.
even if you're starting out thinking, oh my gosh, I have to learn all this stuff, even those that have been in the game for a long time, they're still learning. So don't let that put you off. It's normal to have to keep learning, and all the platforms keep changing. We were talking just before we went live about how the strategies that worked on Facebook like 5-6 years ago don't work today, and things keep changing. But what I've learned through my sort of more than 20 years in marketing is that people don't change. The tactics change, the tools change, the technology changes, the opportunities change, trends. There's a lot that changes, but people don't. So always focus on that genuine connection and what matters to people, not to be
Yeah,
too.
I agree.
So if someone's just starting out on social media, is there any kind of strategies or tactics that work on any platform?
Yes, yes. So whether you want to, yes, start with Instagram or a Facebook group or even Google Ads, you just need to understand what your marketing objectives are. Don't go in, don't create a page, don't set up a Twitter account until you understand what it is that you want to achieve at the end. Once you have an understanding of your marketing objectives and what it is that you want to get out of this, then it will help the beginning of your strategy and your whole journey throughout everything that you do online. So you're selling bespoke homemade candles and you want to sell more of those and you want to promote them to other retail outlets that might sell them for you, then you've got an understanding of the audience that you might have, the keywords that you might want to use, and then choosing a platform and starting. That's the easy bit. Once you've worked out the others, it all forms in really nicely. And as I said, then you can create your Facebook business page, you can start advertising. All of that bit then becomes quite easy once you've got the foundations, which are your marketing objectives and your keywords and your audience.
Yeah, brilliant advice. And I think it's something that people quite often miss in their excitement to get started. Oh, I have to have a Facebook page or
Yeah,
Instagram account, and then they just go and make one without first thinking, well, who is this for?
yeah,
What experience am I going to create with them? Where am I taking them to? And once you
yeah.
have all these answers, and you can make a nice plan to kind of make sure that you are taking people in that direction and giving them the right information and engaging them consistently, it makes all your other decisions so much easier. It's a bit massive shortcut. bit of a complete hack plan. Whenever
Yeah.
I'm training on communications, and was like, yeah, I remember when I first started to about 12 years ago to communicate, to teach communication professionals how to communicate more effectively. And I came up with these 53 rules rather. And I remember my husband came back and said, you can't teach 53. Yeah, maybe it's a bit much. So I started grouping them, and I came down to my 4 golden rules. If you only apply these 4 things to your communications and your marketing, then you will be so much more effective. But those 4 things could just be one, and that's plan.
Yeah.
It's not sexy. It takes time, but it saves so much time later on as well. And it's so much easier afterwards.
Yeah, I completely agree. If you're like me and you have 85 notebooks and pens, I'm old school and I love it. I like to write things down. If it's in my brain, it goes straight into Notepad. But you've got loads of things. You've got voice recordings and Trello and boards and digital things. Just plan, plan. Because if you have a plan, then you're on the road to your journey. If you don't have a plan, it's so hard to understand where to start. And there's that word again, it's very easy to become overwhelmed. To plan everything, understand what your value is, have a think about what the pain points are of your customer and how can you solve all of that for them. Plan it all out, brainstorm. I love a spider diagram. Get it all down, and then it just, as I said, the rest becomes quite easy.
Yeah, and once you have a plan, it's much easier as well to see what's working and what isn't, and say, oh, because you've got something to check it against. This is what you were trying to achieve, and that didn't happen. So then you can see, well, what needs to be tweaked. Was it really as clear, as it really focused on this audience as we needed it to be? And it just makes it so much easier to learn and continue to improve as you go along as well. So you just keep getting better. So one thing that I think a lot of people sometimes dive into too soon, or feel overwhelmed by when it comes to social media, is advertising. And I know this is something that you're particularly great at. So I'm going to really ask you that when do you know it's the right time to start advertising for your business, and how do you know where? Is it Twitter? Is it Pinterest? Is it YouTube, Google, Facebook? The possibilities seem to be endless, but I know you could quite easily burn through a lot of cash very quickly with little results if you just kind of put it out there everywhere without a plan. Coming back to plan. So what advice can you offer people when it comes to advertising?
I'm going to sound like a terribly old broken record now, but if you're even thinking about advertising, or you really want to promote something, or you have an event or a launch of a product, it doesn't matter what stage of your business that you're in, as long as you have a plan. Please don't just think, oh my God, I've got to sell all of my candles or my lipsticks or my hoodies, and I'm just going to throw £100 into Facebook. I guarantee you it just won't work for you. It doesn't matter sometimes how much money you pump into any of these platforms, it just won't work if you don't have a plan. So whatever your marketing objective is, and you've worked out your audience and some, content comes later, because again, once you've got all of your plan and all of the things, I'm going to go back to my 3 kind of foundations again of your marketing objective, your audience and your keywords, the content and your creatives, that all falls into place. So if you know where your audience is and they're on Facebook, then Facebook is the logical place to have a go at adverts. If your audience are not on Twitter and they're not on YouTube, it would be difficult then to start a channel and start from scratch and put lots of money into it. So you've got a Facebook page, that's the first place to start, or you have a group and then you want to put money into it. You also have to think about where you're sending them. If you don't have a website, you don't want to be sending them somewhere. If you've got no website, if they're going to be clicking on a digital ad, you have to physically send them somewhere. So now you have Facebook shops, Instagram shops. So you don't actually have to have a website to be able to display your products for people to click and buy right there and right then. So, and another thing, this is very whistle stop budget, really confuses people, and they think I must have a lot of money, or Google, I've only got £150, it's not enough. There is no minimum spend with Facebook, YouTube and Google. You can start with £1 a day. it isn't a good idea because you're not going to get the results really that you want out of £1 a day, but you can start there. If that is your budget and you want to put an ad together, you can start as little as that. But the greatest thing about Google especially is that you can change your budget and your bids and your ads at any stage when you start your campaign. I would always recommend you start with something like £10 a day to get an ad going. Never run an ad for only a week, because you just won't get enough data at the end to understand how well your advert performed. I could talk about this for hours, and I'm a big fan of Google Ads. I think they're absolutely brilliant for businesses, considering how much money you spend and then how many billions of people that you can reach. But you can essentially start your advertising journey at any time with any budget. You just have to understand what it is that you want to get out of it, who are you talking to, and then what you're going to be, where you're going to be sending them.
Great advice. And yeah, it's clear that you need that objective first to know who you're talking to, what your objective is, and where people are now versus where you want them to get to as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's always something that people don't pay enough attention to, that I want to get them from not knowing about me to buying stuff, so I'm just going to put a buy now link, without realizing actually no, that you've got several different stages they need to go through before they'll be ready to buy. So you need to plan to take them through those stages and guide them through, and then they're going to buy and be happy at the end and become a loyal client because you've done things properly. So understanding the sales cycle and how the customer journey and the decision making process is really important, and to build it into your plan.
Absolutely. I mean, you've just nailed it straight away there. If you're a brand new company and people don't know about you, a buy now straight away something in their face, that's very unlikely to get you any results. A brand awareness campaign, whereas you promote your business with a carousel of images and you talk about your story just to get, let's say, more likes on your Facebook page or more engagement in your Facebook group, you're more likely to eventually get sales down the funnel because you've done a brand awareness campaign. Whereas if you're very well established and you've got a brand new product and you're launching something, then you can go in with a structured ad to a specific audience with a buy right now offer.
So when it comes to advertising, and I guess from what we were just saying, it's that there's probably not one simple answer to this, but how long do you think people should expect it to take to get sales from a Facebook ad?
Oh, I don't want to say it, but it is, how long is your bit of string? It depends. It really all depends. It depends on almost everything. It depends on budget. It depends on your copy and your content. You could have a really fantastic ad that gets you 3 or 4 conversions within, let's say, 3 weeks of running it. But then you could also get conversions and sales from your advert 3 months down the line because of that ad, because someone saw it, forgot about it, made a post-it note, saved something, and then they bought 3 months later. So it really all depends. It depends on a lot of things, and unfortunately I can't give an answer to 1 month. I can't do that, unfortunately. But it's the same with everything. Advertising, whether you're on Facebook or Twitter ads or YouTube or Google ads, it really is a marathon. It's a lot of training, it's a lot of testing, it's a lot of protein shakes, it's a lot of extra bits to get to the end, to the finishing of the marathon. That's what advertising is. You have to do your brand awareness and you have to do all of these campaigns, and then you will get conversions and sales and service and app downloads. It's just that bit in the middle. I can't tell you. For everyone, it's completely different, unfortunately.
But to really map out that journey and be a bit more intentional in the way you do it, and not expect instant results, but reflect on what's happened so you can use that information for the next one.
Yeah. I mean, there's lots of data you can take from all of the ads, and especially with Google Ads specifically, you've got, if you have a website, you can connect your Google Analytics to your Google Ads dashboard, and you've got Google Console. So there's so much data that you can take. So let's say you run an ad for a month, and let's just say, again, you're selling hoodies and you get 3 sales. Now, that's not amazing necessarily compared to your budget that you've spent, but that person could have come back to your website 10 times. They could have spent 3 or 4 minutes. They might have read a blog. So you're actually gaining a lot of customer engagement and loyalty through that person. They've come back so many times. Okay, they've only bought once, but they will buy again. You know, that's where you're going through the funnel of retention, and it's keeping people engaged. So really, data from your ads is so important, and you can see the journey of where your customers come in and come out and how they engage with your website and your shop. Sometimes that is actually more important in the long run than a straight off sale.
That's interesting. And I guess it's the same with any shop really, and any engagement you have. And we were talking on the show with another lady about networking, and that it's not always going to a network and finding customers. Often the relationship you start with the people you meet there can be even more valuable, because they may bring you even more clients or more engagement, and they'll give you more insights or support you in so many different ways. So it's not always about getting the instant sales in. Sometimes those sales that take a little bit longer can be even more valuable to you in the long term. If people are really engaged with who you are and your brand and everything about your business, then it's you never know where one sale will take you as well. I've seen that so often that when I used to have for a while, a few years ago, I sold a physical product, which was the first time I've ever done that. So that was a real exciting journey for me, and I learned so much about face-to-face sales and customer engagement through that process. But I often saw that if I did an event and I sold lots of products, very often they wouldn't come back. But if I did another event and didn't sell so many, but I had real conversations with people and engaged them and understood their needs a lot more, they would come back time again, and they would recommend me and bring more clients. So often it was those events that were quieter, where I had fewer sales, that actually did the best for my business. And I guess it's the same can be in any customer interaction, whether it's online or virtual or in person.
Yeah, for sure. And then again, with the digital space, what you see now, if someone has had a really lovely customer experience through their journey, great customer service, they've got their product, it's packaged lovely, it arrives on time, all of those things, and they give you a Facebook shout out, or it appears in their Instagram stories and they tag you, that is even more valuable than than buying something from your ad. That's now the journey that we're seeing with a lot of sales and things online, and reviews, and again, they could be coming back 3 or 4 times. So that whole journey of all of that, and then the social media that's attached with it, and the reviews and testimonials, it's all part of the journey, and it's all so valuable.
Which is where, coming back to your advice right at the beginning, just starting in one place and really getting to know your audience and what works for them and what they respond to is really going to help you when it comes to time for you to create more of your journey and start with advertising. You can bring in that knowledge into it to make a really a standout experience for them. Emma, you've shared so much value. I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you.
Before we sign off, is there any final piece of advice you would give to the women out there who are building a business? It doesn't need to be necessarily linked to their social media strategy, but is there anything you've learned along the way you think, I wish I knew that sooner?
Yes, I've written down my top 3 things really. If at any stage of your business, if you're not quite started, or you're a year in, or you're 7 years in, the one thing I wish someone had said to me at the very beginning, well, they did, actually, one person said it to me, was just do it. If you've got the tiniest microscopic thought in your back of your head, oh, I'd really like to do this, just do it. You don't need to tell hundreds of people, just go out and do it. Because if you've got it inside you and you've already created that one speck of a thought, write it down, journal it, put it in a note somewhere, put it on a post-it note, and just do it. Start your launch, start your business, create your lead magnet, just do it, because there's a fabulous journey ahead of you. My other one is test everything. Test your content. If you're not sure about what works, test everything. Have a go at a live, do a carousel of images, just do a single video, have a go at reels if you fancy it. I mean, that's a black hole of hours can be spent, but just test things, because you won't know what your audience wants to engage with or what products you can start with. Just test things. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't have to cost you a lot of money. And the information and research that you'll get after that will be super valuable for you going forward. And my last one is really find your tribe. Find a Facebook group like yours, the Driven Entrepreneur. It's get into Facebook groups, find your people, get into a community, because I didn't have a tribe before this year, and I joined an amazing group of women called Digital Women that's run by Lucy Hall, and I've just got the support of people and advice, and I feel like I now work in a team. I work on my own every day, and you know what it's like. You can spend a lot of time on your own. Some days I don't speak to anyone else except my partner, poor bloke. He comes in and I'm like, a human. So find a tribe, find a group of people, find a group of women or other small business owners, and just talk about your stresses and your worries, and should I launch this, and just find your tribe, because it will be another addition to your team that you didn't realize that you had.
Amazing advice, and I couldn't agree more. It's kind of why I started the Facebook group, because when I worked in corporate, I worked my position up, and I reported direct to the CEO in the end, and I really wanted to use that position to inspire more women and give them more, empower them to have a bigger vision. Excuse me. So I brought in lots of external role models, and it had a real impact, and it was great to bring women together, and to see what that community meant to them was incredible. That support and togetherness really helped, because I was working in private banking in Switzerland, and there weren't that many women, and they've also spread out. Bring them together as a community was really powerful. But then I started my own business 12 years ago, and I was like, where is everyone? I was totally on my own, and bit by bit I found one or two people, and we're still in contact and support each other today. In fact, one of the ladies was one of the first people I met, and digitally as well. We didn't even meet in person until many years later. She just finished writing a book, and I'm just writing her book cover for her at the minute, because as a friend, it's something I'm really happy to do. But it's really exciting to go on that journey with other people and have someone to turn to. It's so important. You can have paid coaches and mentors, which are amazing, because they can definitely help shortcut that process. But having the tribe and a community is just something else altogether, and so important when we work alone, and you just second guess yourself way too much otherwise.
Yeah, overthinking, unfortunately, is what we all do, men, women, whatever stage of your business. We do tend to do it a lot, but now and again in the digital sphere is fantastic. If you're struggling with your Facebook page, you now don't have to do it and struggle for 4 hours by yourself and tear your hair out. Go in a group, ask someone a question, and someone will go, oh yeah, this happened to me, and I did this, bish bash bosh. And if it works for you, great. And you've just got people that you can instantly talk to. There's always someone online. And the beautiful thing about these groups is you could be talking to someone from Switzerland and Hong Kong and 4 doors down. It's just a fabulous place to be. And that is why digital can be so great in so many ways. That yes, I'm not out networking physically in person yet, but I'm talking to and meeting all these fantastic women entrepreneurs and business owners.
Yeah, and that's the great thing about the entrepreneurial community, I find anyways, that they're so open and very keen to share, because that's how they've got started, or how they overcame something, and then people pass that on and support each other. I really love that aspect of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I unfortunately didn't have quite as much support like that when I very first started. People already in business were very reluctant to share their inside tips and top secrets, because they didn't want to share it with a new person, because they'd already done it by themselves. But that's not the case now. People are very open to help other people, to support new business. And there's so much more support and engagement and encouragement than I've ever had before.
Yeah, I think people have finally learned that if you keep information to yourself, that's, information isn't, I feel information is only powerful when it's shared and acted upon. If you keep it to yourself, then it kind of dies, and it go anywhere, and it doesn't help you either. So
Yeah.
yeah, just get out and share was my philosophy.
Yeah.
Thanks again, Emma. For anyone who's listening to this podcast, I'm going to put all your links below, and I know you're inviting people, if they want to know more about how to get started with their digital strategy, that they can give you a call, which is very generous of you. So all that information will be down below. But for anyone who's out listening to this while jogging or waiting for the kids at school or whatever it may be, how can they get in touch with you?
LinkedIn is a good place. You can message me anytime. My personal profile is LinkedIn Emma York, and my Instagram channel is Fresh Approach Digital, and the same on Facebook and Twitter. I am that person that has them all, but I've been going 7 years, so I've dipped in and out of everything. So yeah, Fresh Approach Digital, you can pretty much find me everywhere.
Brilliant. Thanks again so much, Emma.
Thanks so much. Bye.
Bye.